Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. What we're going to be talking about today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Can you handle the truth? you know, it's one of those. Because we live in a world of misinformation, and it's hard to sort fact from fiction, right? Even more so when the facts are distorted. And with misinformation coming our way day and night, day after day, we've got to decipher the truth. And once we have actual facts, it's right in front of our face in black and white, right on. It's up to each one of us to determine how it affects us and the world that we live in, the world that surrounds us, right? Okay, so I know you've heard about Agenda 2030, okay? It's the Central United Nations platform for sustainable development. It's a perfect case in point here. Okay, it contains 17 goals that 193 member states, including the US, okay, pledged to ensure. It is a convoluted, wordy document that focuses on the idea of a global partnership to eradicate issues relating to global human rights, poverty, and the environment. So rather than picking up on sound bites and whatnot, okay, here's the truth, okay, about Agenda 2030. Straight from the actual sources, the original sources, okay? Now use this information to form your own opinion, okay? I always encourage you guys to do your own research. Okay, here are the basic facts of Agenda 2030, all right? The heads of state and the government and high representatives meet at the United Nations headquarters in New York between September 25th, 27th in 2015 to create new global sustainable development goals. The 2030 agenda, which is being accelerated right now, okay, in case you didn't know that, for sustainable development is a resolution adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2015. Okay, now the 2030 agenda has 17 sustainable development goals and 169 targets. Okay, according to the UN, all countries, all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan, okay? And the goals and the targets will stimulate action over the next 15 years in areas of critical importance for humanity and the planet. Now, that was back in 2015, which 15 years would bring us to 2030. Okay, so as of right now, we have 8 years left. But, like I said, they're accelerating this. And according to my calculations, I could be off, they're accelerating this, and it's, according to my calculations, it should hit us about 2025. Okay, so in the Agenda 2030 declaration, the UN declares, on behalf of the people that we serve, we have adopted a historic decision on a comprehensive, far-reaching, and people-centered set of universal and transformative goals and targets. We commit ourselves to working tirelessly for the full implementation of this agenda by the year 2030. It is important to note that Agenda 2030 was written in 2015, like I said, well before the Rona, okay? However, the UN has a Rona response for the sustainable development of goals and is pushing this Agenda 2030 in the wake of a pandemic. Now, how the hell did they know, right? Which may explain why you are hearing about it more and more now, right? So the UN's Rona response, their website says that the pandemic is an unprecedented wake-up call. Seriously? Laying bare deep inequalities and exposing precisely the failures that are addressed in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on the climate change. Leveraging this moment of crisis when usual policies and social norms have been disrupted. Bold steps can steer the world back on track towards the sustainable development goals. This is the time for change, for a profound systematic shift to a more sustainable economy that works for both people and the planet. These sustainable development goals are vital for a recovery that leads to greener, more inclusive economies and stronger, more resilient societies. Now, there are the 5 P's of Agenda 2030, which is planet, people, prosperity, peace, partnership. Okay. Now, the 17 goals of the Agenda 2030. All right. In order to achieve the 5 P's, they have to get through these 17 sustainable goals first. Okay. The first goal is to end poverty in all forms everywhere. The second one is to end hunger. The third one is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. The fourth one, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The fifth one is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. The sixth one is ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. The seventh one is ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. The eighth one is promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. The ninth one is build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. The 10th one, reduce inequality within and among countries. The 11th one, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. The 12th one, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. The 13th one, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. The 14th one, conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. 15th one, protect, restore, promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. The 16th one, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. The 17th one, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Now, please keep in mind that each one of these goals also contains targets. For example, goal number 2 includes a 2-to-1 ratio. By 2030, end hunger and ensure access by all people, in particular the poor and people in vulnerable situations, including infants, to safe, nutritious that too, and sufficient food all year round. Goal 16 includes 16 to 9 ratio by 2030, provide legal identity for all, including birth registration. Yeah. Now, there are 169 targets in all of which break down goals in this way. So the implementation of Agenda 2030, okay, lofty goals like this require a lot of action, okay? And Agenda 2030 is not lacking in calls for governments to act. The agenda, it repeatedly refers to the financing for development outcome document as a major part of the action plan for achieving goals. While it's hard to say how actionable the declarations of the outcome document actually are, they shine a light on the priorities and the mindset of the groups writing this agenda. So here's like a little bit of it. Okay, so expanding taxation. Okay, it says we commit to enhancing revenue administration through modernized, progressive tax systems, improved tax policy, and more efficient tax collection. We will work to broaden the tax base. We welcome efforts by countries to set nationally defined domestic targets and timelines for enhancing domestic revenue as part of their national sustainable development strategies, and will support developing countries in need of reaching these targets. Now, the next one is empowering the IMF and World Bank to access financial information to help combat illicit flows. We invite the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, to the World Bank and the United Nations to assist both source and destination countries. We also invite appropriate international institutions and regional organizations to publish estimates of the volume and composition of illicit financial flows. Okay, so the next one is strengthening regulations on private business to achieve public goals, then growing services for immigrants and their host countries, footing $100 billion annual bill for clean energy, and there's so many more. Okay, so the concern regarding this Agenda 2030, all right, if I'm being honest here, there's a lot of mistrust, right, when it comes to Washington or the UN. Okay, we have seen firsthand how FEMA has failed us how many times during how many crises, right? So when looking at this giant agenda that is full of hyperbolic language, okay, it's easy to see how some people just don't trust it, and I get it, right? I mean, how is the UN going to end poverty in all forms everywhere by 2030? They can't. It just doesn't seem possible given the track record here. Okay, moreover, the language that's used in Agenda 2030 has some worries, some worried in presenting New World Order, right? This is because it uses all-encompassing language such as for all, right? And emphasizes the need for global partnership. Instead of the United States of America, people are fearful that our own current laws will cease to exist if we continue to hand U.S. sovereignty over to an international government. According to the UN, okay, sustainable development goals, okay, are not legally binding, but nevertheless, countries are expected to take ownership and establish a national framework for achieving these 17 goals. So, if I take the time, okay, if you can stomach it, to read Agenda 2030, okay, and the financing for development outcome document in full, and form your own opinion. Now, while the goals may seem all fine and dandy, like, oh my gosh, yeah, this sounds great. Yeah. We're all familiar with that phrase, no good deed goes unpunished, right? As danger in the world grows and concern for our government just handing over its independence continues, it's always important to practice preparedness, right? Learn basic survival skills. I've been doing, like with my newsletter, okay? I've been doing a survival newsletter also. Develop relationships with people that you can trust. Purchase land, stock up on food supplies, stay aware. Don't rely on the government or the United Nations. Screw them. They're not going to save the world. Learn how to save yourself. All right, guys. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fearless. Ciao.